You ever wondered if you're using the right soil for your garden beds? Today we're at Green Valley Nursery and we're going to show you what to look for because they're going to mix us a special blend right now. We're going to start with one of our favorites, Pittmoss. It's great for aeration and water retention, and it's a peat moss replacement.
It does hold a little bit more moisture than the typical peat moss.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that pine bark, I think that'll help loosen it up some and give you a little bit of organic nitrogen.
Can you tell us why you're so passionate about soil?
There was just a huge void in the market around here, you know, and everything starts with the soil. You know, we do a lot of landscaping and things, but plants are so expensive, but the plant's only as good as the soil.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we're trying to get people educated that that's where you start, you know, because everybody wants immediate gratification. They want to start with large plants, big plants, but what we found is if you prep the soil properly, you can start with a 1 gallon plant, it'll outgrow a 3 gallon plant in one season.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get people familiarized with it. I went to school for environmental biology, so that's kind of what got me interested in it. And then there's just been a huge void. All the soils that we've been able to buy locally and stuff, there was either a supply chain issue where you get to a point where you can't get the quantities you need, or there's a quality issue. So we figured we'll just fix that and be able to have our own QC here. So
Love that.
That's why we do it.
Awesome.
It's enjoyable. It's something a little different than what we've done in the past. That's enough meat. So we'll do 2 25-pound bags of worm castings. What's cool about this was repurposed. It's a fertilizer blender, so it's designed to blend very uniformly. That's why we use it for our living soils. We have the big carousel type blenders and things, but when you're doing these inputs, this gets everything very uniformly blended because that's why it was designed for fertilizer blending, which is real important that everything's blended properly.
The last time I did a story and I mentioned y'all, there were 3 or 4 people that said that they live near here.
Oh, really?
But they didn't know, so.
Really?
And one of my friends from Texas, or one of my followers, she's a friend now, they're coming up here in October to visit her best friend. And she's like, I'm gonna go there.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, I want to show you, I'm going to give you some bags of our new, we just purchased the company and
yeah, we were reading all about it. It's interesting.
They're great people, wonderful people. Carla's going to stay on. I'll introduce you guys to her. She's a wonderful person. She's very passionate about it. She's going to stay on and continue to rep for us. And then Scott, it was their mixing manager over there.
Yeah.
He's going to come to work for us too.
Oh,
so really
cool.
nothing's changing except for the location. We've got a big bucket. We just come up and we feed it into there and we load it in the truck. But I'd like for you to put your eyes on it. That way, if you want to add any more additives to it or anything, we can do it now and it won't, no big deal. Boy, that is chunky, isn't it?
Yeah, last year we had one bed just with this. It was probably one of our best beds.
Really?
It was weird. It was like, what is happening?
What do you guys think as far as, we can add any kind of inputs to it. We can put more bark in there if you like.
I like it.
In Oklahoma, we may get 8 inches of rain in one evening.
Right.
So what happens is you need to kind of see how it's going to react to waterlogging. Like when it gets as wet as it can, is it still going to allow moisture to go through or is it going to trap?
Yeah.
What we're trying to avoid is, and that's where the bark input helps a lot, is if you get enough bark in there as a filler, because this is going to hold moisture and it does its job during the summer, but we have to be able to service that in the spring too. You don't want that excess moisture causing issues. So the only way I really know to do that is to waterlog it. We take it over, we put water on it repeatedly until it's at its maximum potential for holding moisture, and then see how it's going to react if it's going to continue to let the water go through it. Ideally, you want it to soak and drain slowly, soak and drain slowly. You don't want it to just run through really, really fast, otherwise you're not going to have enough retention. And likewise, once it does get full of water, you don't want it to pool on top for long periods of time. So let's test it and see what we got.
Okay.
It's the best way to, it gives you a demographic of what the whole soil bed's going to be like, you know, soak and repeat. And all of them, when they're dry, are going to take it fast and run it through. But it's what happens when they get waterlogged and see they start to stand like that. That mimics what happened in your bed when you get 6-8 inches of rain in an evening. You're still on the bottom, you're going to have a pool. And that's what we're going to try to avoid there. That's why we use so much perlite and we use so much pine bark in our garden mixes, is so that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So I think we need to go at least another quarter of bark and turn it and see how we do with that. This being my first time utilizing this, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing about, you know, like peat mosses, they sell them in grades. And actually the more expensive peat mosses are the ones with the bigger chunks in. As they go finer, it gets cheaper. And it's because of that that characteristic they're trying to utilize the peat moss that will help with drainage.
This is a repurposed fertilizer mixer that they use to blend all their special soil mixes, and it blends it really good, like very evenly. And we've got pit moss in there and some aged pine bark and some worm castings.
The peat bogs alone, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's our thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you could do that, because they absorb so much carbon, it's insane. And also with the regulations, Canada's starting to realize that they're a little ahead of the curve, and they have almost all the peat bogs. So they're heavily regulating it, so they're not opening new peat bogs, so that causes more demand with less supply. So
I heard all the big soil guys buy it up in bulk. I mean,
they do.
They get first dibs on it.
So a little secret thing they don't talk about a lot. There's only like 3 major peat moss companies in this area, in Canada and places like that. There's only like 3 big ones, and they sell to all the other ones. So what we found is when the market tightened on peat moss, there was a high demand, short supply. They had bad harvest, and their harvest window is very short on peat moss. It's like 2 months, and they have to harvest everything for the whole year. So when they had a bunch of rain, they couldn't harvest. It has to be dry and harvest. Then the supply went way down. So what happens is all these little guys that were getting peat moss from the big guys tightened up. So we're not going to give you peat moss to compete with us. So then you start getting it, and then the price goes up. You can't get it. A lot of the peat moss companies you used to buy from don't have the supply. You know, they're rationing it. So it's So that's one nice thing about this that you're talking to them is it's stable supply chain. Everybody tries to, like I found here in Oklahoma, ideally, east side is good, where you get a lot of sun up until midday and after protection, especially, but it's for certain things, you know. Tomatoes especially, what we found is people end up having to fix some kind of shade structure with tomatoes because it gets too hot, and you got 6 foot, 7 foot tomatoes, and then I wouldn't do any more bark. If anything, we might throw a couple more bags of peat in there. It's up to you.
No, I think that's good.
Okay. It's loose enough.
Yeah, it's chunky.
Yeah, it's chunky. It'll let stuff through.
So they got our soil all mixed up, and now they're loading it in the back of our truck. But the real fun is they have a bunch of starts coming, and that's what I'm waiting on. They should be here any minute. Jared did a moisture test with the soil to make sure it was draining properly, and that was something new for us. So that's kind of cool. So now we know when we're mixing up our own soil to do that test and make sure it's draining properly so that the plants don't get root rot. They grow their starts for them, so they're all veggie starts. They're waiting on a delivery right now, and I'm gonna get a bunch of them. They have some fall starts, so I'm gonna grab a few of these because my starts didn't do so well, and these look beautiful. Oh yeah, like this one's mostly yellow, and look, this one's orange, and then there's a pink one. My starts didn't do so well because I didn't pot them up in time because we were waiting to get our soil, and with ADHD, I just kind of, I'll do it tomorrow, and I never did it. You know what I mean? We eat a lot of cabbage, my love. 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 18, 36. Just a few. I got my veggies. I got broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, and some Swiss chard, even though we're not going to eat it. It looks pretty. We just want to say thanks to Green Valley Nursery, and if y'all are ever in the area, it's north of Tulsa, be sure and come visit them because they're super friendly and they have lots of good stuff here.